but I don't know how the university itself, from a policy standpoint and administrative standpoint, is protecting any minorities at all.
Yeah, obviously underneath that sort of mask, that performative act, it's far from the truth.
When will Gilman show his face? Because I'm challenging him to show his face, you know, to the UCI student body and show that he is not just some hologram.
Is an all-inclusive campus that makes marginalized students feel welcome.
Being a Black woman on campus, I feel like that's not really that true. It seems like a lot of things are catered for everyone else, and then they kind of just forget that we're here. And they always tell us, like, you know, we're working on our diversity, we're such a diverse school, and then you come here and that's not the case at all, so it is overwhelming.
As a fellow Latino, I would say that even though that we are technically a Hispanic serving institution, that there's the fact that you feel underrepresented.
And kind of the structure of this school too, and the way it's built, sort of the infrastructure of it, there's really no student-centered space here. You know, you go to the student center, it's a conference space. The school's built in a circle. It's very difficult to have any sort of spaces where students can interact with each other and kind of talk about their ideas and stuff.
A lot of my friends are persons of color, and like the general sentiment that I get when they're on campus and stuff are trying to interact, an emphasis on trying to interact with the campus. It shouldn't be they have to try so hard to seek out spaces where they feel represented, and I just think the school prides itself on having those inclusive areas, but yeah, obviously underneath that sort of mask, that performative act, it's far from the truth.
I still remember in my first year, it was almost like an Easter egg to see a fellow Black person, and just started to feel really lonely, and especially seeing some of the other POC groups became a little bit more cliquey. It was kind of hard to integrate.
UCI protects some minorities over others.
From my perspective, in event promotion, I see so many events from international student transfers, specifically for them, but I don't see anything from BSU or being promoted anywhere.
I know I'm on the agree side, but I'm kind of leaning towards disagree a little bit, just because I genuinely do not know how UCI protects any minorities at all at an administrative level. I know the culture of the university has plays sometimes favorites towards some minorities over others, but I don't know how the university itself, from a policy standpoint and administrative standpoint, is protecting any minorities at all.
I mean, the closest thing I could think about is maybe regarding, the admission system, which faced criticism, for some time for prioritizing, Asian backgrounds, from white backgrounds than that of people of color.
Again, being Black, we see it all the time. Recently, when the Kyle Rittenhouse case came out and our vice chancellor put out a statement basically saying that was wrong, the university made him retract his statement, and that was so detrimental to a lot of Black students. We were like, wow. And I just feel like if it had been any other community, they wouldn't have retracted that statement so fast.
I'm gonna piggyback off of that one. I definitely agree. I remember there was a whole situation with Black History Month, and now they took a little too long to acknowledge it. But with Lunar New Year, they were on it.
UCI has done everything they could for the Black community.
I'll start this one off. No, plain and simple, no. They, when I came here, I remember being told how much oh, there's so much diversity, and it came and they pushed almost every single Black person at the school in front of us, and I was like, wow, there is, and they had all these other people too, and I was like, you know what, maybe this is a diverse school. And then I came to campus day one, and I was like, oh, so that was all the Black people at that school, literally, they were all at that one event. I would definitely say no. I feel like a lot of it is for show. They say things, but we don't really see action. And on 4 years, I don't think I've seen much action.
When the police administration on campus is confronted about these issues, they didn't even have proper trainings anti-blackness training, State openly admitted it on his live stream, on stage. The police chief struggled to identify or, put a very clear, black and white scenario, just easy to draw a line there on what hate crimes against black people specifically are.
So even what extends beyond public safety, so the school said that they were going to hire 2 black psychologists, and they hired 0. And even till now, it's disproportionate that our black students don't have any psychologists that they could see in the counseling center. You have to go off campus. Whereas other students, they have representation within the counseling center. And this has been an issue for years that they have not addressed.
It's a joke, plain and simple. Just a recent incident, on Martin Luther King Jr. Day, I remembered, is that there was, incident of, white supremacist stickers posted all over, the campus. And how, even though there was an email saying, oh, measures will be taken to take it down, there really wasn't much of a response. And the problem is that these people that chose the stickers, which, are against, the African-American community.
UCI prides itself on being a inclusive campus or having diversity, but in reality, it's, as with a lot of other universities, it is performative. They're trying to meet diversity quotas.
I remember that I actually know someone, in my dorm who is African American, and she told me that she actually, takes an African American studies class. However, when she went to her African American studies class, it was mainly taught by a white guy, which, let's just say, can make things a bit awkward.
Say, oh yeah, we're gonna make a black resource center, but then put it in a storage room somewhere in student center where it's hard to find.
They were going to put it in lot 5 too. They were going to throw it to the very end of campus in the middle of nowhere. And they had to fight to even get that spot in the cross-cultural center.
They have themed housing all over campus, but they put the Black Scholars House and Rosa Parks, and I think there's another one in Arroyo Vista, which is off campus. They have to buy a meal plan separately on top of it. Why isn't the Black Scholars House directly in Mesa or Middle, right on campus where it's accessible for everybody? So it just kind of shows where their priorities are when it comes to those types of things.
To that, most of the black students that end up over there, at least for freshmen, is because they couldn't get into the regular dorms.
Israel is an apartheid regime.
Glad we're all in agreement.
You should go first.
You have a lot to say about the issue.
Yeah, well, I'm Palestinian, and if you look at Israel and you look at South African apartheid, there's a lot of similarities. So, for example, in the West Bank, there are roads that are for settlers only that Palestinians are not allowed to drive on. The fact that they even have to go through checkpoints to go from one city to another. Just imagine this, we're in Irvine right now. You want to drive to, let's say, Costa Mesa, and you have to go through a checkpoint. Checkpoint might tell you that you can't go through, they might arrest you at the checkpoint, things like that.
I'm not as informed on the topic as I would like to be, but from what it sounds like, definitely.
And also another aspect to note is also when we consider the military, because although Palestine, has its sense, has a military, the more, more technologically capable, more superior military appears, to be within Israel. And there's also the fact that Israel itself has a lot of support from UN, the United States, all the major world powers. Well, meanwhile, Palestine barely gets anything. A massive power difference and a sense of massive, inequality when we consider, the relations between Israel and Palestine.
And there's a lot of people that will say that an apartheid state couldn't exist today. But when you're a regime that is backed by the most powerful military industrial complex in the world and the lead producer of Islamophobia, it's a one-way ticket to be able to do whatever you want, unchecked.
Coming in right now and moving people out of their homes, forcing them out of their homes, bombing children, women, men, innocent people that have been living there for years. There's no way you can look at all the facts that they just stated and say that it's not an apartheid regime.
In high school, I took a Model UN class, and one of our first and biggest discussions was on the establishment of Israel in the state of Palestine, the atrocities committed by the Israeli government, and the fact that the U.S. has, or I guess turning a blind eye is supporting them, and providing them their funding and their own military. It's just completely against the ideals that the U.S. totes to present to the rest of the world of freedom and democracy.
Howard Gilman is overpaid for the minimal work that he does for the UCI community.
Howard Gilman, I think, gets paid about $600,000. I think his salary got increased by about $50,000 this past year alone. He also gets, I think, his mansion completely paid for by the university as well.
Some people don't know the chancellor's name. some people wouldn't be able to explain what he does. Some people would say, oh, I've probably only seen his like name on emails, like at the end, you know, like when they make statements.
I've been here for a little bit. I've never seen that man. I don't know what he looks like. I just know he's white and he's overpaid.
Think about how much funding, we could have received if, instead of that going to the chancellor. We could have doing that, to better service for underrepresented communities such as the disabled. We can prioritize that also for Latinos and also for Black people and for other groups of color.
$600,000 is a lot of money. That could be used for a lot of other things on campus.
Like the concept that most people I know can barely afford to pay for groceries, have to skip meals, and then miss rent payments. All this guy's like chauffeuring for his rich friends over at his mansion. At least show something. At least show your face. At least have people know who you are. Like, it's the bare minimum.
I only know him from his emails that I don't read. So.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Has anyone really ever met Gilman? Like,
No.
seriously. Yeah, exactly. So, when will Gilman show his face? Because I'm challenging him to show his face, to the UCI student body and show that he is not just some hologram propped up by, well, I'm going this conspiracy stuff, but you get my point.
UCI PD should be penalized and removed from their positions for police brutality. Liz Griffin.
I'll start this one off just because it was really recent at school when there's a council, I think it's PSAC. Yeah, so there was like a panel where we were able to talk to, PD and kind of just voice our opinions, ask questions openly. And we were basically told that we had an officer here that had like tackled a student. She was trying to get her transcripts or something like that. And so we were all like, how come she wasn't released from her position? Why wasn't she fired? Why wasn't she disciplined? And we were told, oh, because she didn't break the law or protocol.
There was a peaceful protest going on outside of Aldrich Hall. She had nothing to do with the protest. She was just a Black woman going in to pick up her transcripts, and because she was Black, they assumed she was part of the protest, and they tackled her to the ground, arrested her, and no one knew. I was actually there that day after she had been arrested at those protests. Once again, like that officer went under a review by a third party, by the administration, and by the police department, and all of them, for some reason, decided that that was an okay thing to do.
If any of us were like to tackle somebody right now, you would probably, come get us. We'd all be in trouble. We'd probably be fired. We'd be released from our positions.
It's definitely a sad reflection that police brutality towards people of color is a punchline. It's a joke that everyone just accepts as truth.
Because the problem is that they just have themselves a bit of a power complex because they just keep getting more and more funding, more and more resources. And so what we must do is that we at least need to work on, defunding them. We have to divest resources, such as, prioritizing things like for better for mental health, people of color, people from low-income backgrounds, such as, like opportunities of food and also for housing.
Bottom line, I think any institution that basically is vilified and can't seem to not be the antagonist for the people that it's supposed to protect, any institution like that has no right to be in existence or in any capacity. They pride themselves on trying to provide a safe environment for the campus, for the students, and they fumble their words when trying to explain how they're going to do that. If you ask even just beyond surface level questions, you see that it's not you that they have in mind. They don't care. So.